Good evening and many thanks for joining us tonight, the first day of February the year 2024. Indeed, we have much and more lined up for you, including our big discussion tonight where we take stock of the 100% transition from primary to secondary school and the headache that comes with it. Often they say education is the key to success, or rather the key to unlock limitless potential. But that particular key might be hanging on balance for some students who are yet to join high school. Well, that discussion will be coming to you in just about a matter of time. But before that, our top stories tonight.
Tonight, no child should be sent home. Ruto fires warning to school heads and teachers against sending students home for failing to clear school fees. We will crush you. Kindiki vows to end insecurity madness in the country, putting bandits on notice. Also tonight, leaving no stone unturned. The Ministry of Health is on a mission to weed out rogue officials who allegedly embezzled the NHIF fund. Plus, our hands are tied. Kenya Police explains why they decided to hike gate charges in their clash against Gor Mahia.
This is KUTV Primetime News with Auma Evans.
Alright, Samuel Kelly will be assisting us on the sign language interpretation department. Remember, you can follow this broadcast on all of our social media platforms. We are live on YouTube at KUTV News Live. You can tweet me at Auma Evans. Remember to use the hashtag Primetime News. So tonight we begin in Bungoma, where President William Ruto has promised to compensate Nzoia sugar mills cane farmers to clear 1.7 billion shillings debt owed to cane farmers by the state-owned factories. He also promised to deal with corrupt officers who he alleged intended to sabotage Nzoia sugar mills. Eliud Mutiri kicks us off tonight with that report.
During his tour in Bungoma County, President William Ruto met Nzoia sugar mills cane farmers, and it is at this meeting that the president revisited the 117 billion shillings debt write-off for sugar companies, which saw Nzoia Sugar's debt of over 50 billion shillings offset.
Ile deni ya bilioni 50 na kitu 53 billion ambaye ilikuwa nadaiwa kampuni yenu ya Nzoia, tumeifutilia mbali kama serikali. Hamuna deni tena, kampuni yenu is free. Tumefanya hivyo kwa kampuni ya miwani, tumefanya hivyo kwa kampuni ya Muhoroni, tumefanya hivyo kwa kampuni ya Sony, tumefanya hivyo kwa kampuni ya Chemeli. Hiyo deni yote ilikuwa bilioni 117. We have written off
debt we had of 54 billion shillings was written off, and the Minister for Finance has given us a certificate to that effect.
Nzoia Sugar Factory cane farmers are now set to receive compensation for money owed to them by the sugar miller. The Kenya Sugarcane Federation had petitioned the president to release 1.7 billion shillings that was meant to compensate sugarcane farmers in the Nyanza region, money that the government promised to release by the end of 2023.
Pesa imekuja hapa, niko na hundi hapa ya pesa yenu, pesa ya wakulima wote. Nikiondoka hapa in the next 2 days, hakuna mkulima atakuwa anadai. Mkulima wa hapa, kila mkulima atakuwa amelipwa.
Ruto has sworn to deal with corrupt individuals who he says are intending to sabotage Nzoia Sugar.
Hii jambo I must sort it out. Hii tutatatua hii. Hakuna mtu tena ataiba kwa hii kampuni. Hakuna mtu ataendesha ufisadi hapa. Hakuna mkulima atalete miwa yake hapa asilipwe pesa yake. Na hawa wafanyikazi wakifanya kazi mwisho wa mwezi walipwe mshahara yao.
Nimepigiwa simu, wananchi hapa wanapiga masimu, wanasema kiwanda chetu kimeuzwa. Wanasema kiwanda chetu kimeenda. Juzi wakanipigia simu wazungu na makala singa wako kwa factory. Mheshimiwa Rais, nafikiri utaambia watu hawa kwamba kiwanda hiki hakiwezi kwenda bila wao kuhusishwa. Hao ndio wanatoa uamuzi wa kuendeleza hii factory tukienda mbele.
These sentiments of public inclusion come at a time when the government intends to revive the sugar industry by leasing state-owned sugar millers to private sector stakeholders. Elsewhere, Athanas Wafula wa Munyinyi has filed a case at Milimani Law Courts to oppose the leasing of Nzoia, Chemelil, Muhoroni and South Nyanza sugar companies through a long-term lease, faulting the move for lack of public participation. Eliud Mutweri, KUTV.
Still on head of state, President William Ruto has sent a stern warning to school heads and teachers against sending students for junior secondary school, or rather student of junior secondary school, home for failing to clear school fees, insisting that the government has disbursed money for school capitation for the first term of the year 2024 school calendar. Ruto said this after officially opening Naitiri SA Primary School in Tongaren, Bungoma County in his official 4 days tour of the Western region. Our political affairs reporter Vivian Opio with the details.
Speaking in Tongaren after officially opening Naitiri SA Primary School, President William Ruto issued a stern warning to the school heads who continue to send JSS students home for fees, saying that the government is providing fees for the students.
Kuna mashule inaambia wanafunzi wale wa JSS ati serikali haijatoa pesa, warudi nyumbani ati waende walete school fees. Mimi nataka nitangaze nikiwa hapa Bungoma tena nirudie. Tumetoa bilioni 7.5 pesa ya serikali kusomesha watoto wa JSS. Hakuna mtoto anahitajika kulipa fees yoyote ati aende shule ya JSS. Naelewa.
Apart from education, President Ruto launched the construction of Naitiri Market and then launched the construction of affordable houses in Msokoma Kandui in Bungoma South. Ruto said that the project will provide employment to 30,000 residents, and that's the main goal of the government.
Kuna electrician, kuna plumber, kuna carpenter, kuna hata mpaka ile mwingine hata kazi ya mkono. Nyinyi mtashindwa kufanya hiyo kazi? Uko tayari? Ama nyinyi ni wale watu wa kuchagua jembe? Sisi tulikubaliana kazi ni kazi.
Ruto also underscored the government's commitment to prioritizing youth aspirations by securing jobs for millions of Kenyans abroad.
Tuko na nafasi kama hizo 1,500. Tunataka vijana wa Kenya waweze kufanya kazi ng'ambo, watuletee pesa, na tumeagree bilateral labor agreement ya kupanga ajira ya hawa vijana.
The head of state further assured farmers that the government will continue to reduce fertilizer prices to ensure the country is able to sustain itself.
Tunatumia bilioni 500 kila mwaka kuleta hiyo chakula kutoka nje. Mimi nimesema mambo ya kuleta chakula kutoka nje itakoma, chakula yote tutazalisha hapa nyumbani.
The head of state was accompanied by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, as well as the local MPs in Bungoma County, as his visit continues tomorrow in Kakamega County. Vivian Opio, KUTV.
And now to health matters. After Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha suspended 27 hospitals accused of fraudulent activities that rendered the National Health Insurance Fund a loss of 20 billion shillings. And as Theo Macharia reports, the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Health today visited Embu and Meru counties for probing over fraudulent claims of NHIF by hospitals.
The National Assembly Departmental Committee on Health today visited Meru and Embu counties on a fact-finding mission to investigate various hospitals believed to have colluded with rogue officials to embezzle funds from the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF. This comes after the members of parliament led by committee Vice Chairperson Patrick Munene on Wednesday visited similar facilities in Murang'a and Kirinyaga County, where two Afya Bora hospitals in Kirinyaga and Murang'a High School dispensary were found to be part of a suspected financial malpractice that, together with other counties awaiting probe, rendered the NHIF a loss of 20 billion shillings. In both counties, the institution's management were questioned about loopholes in their claims. For instance, the two Afya Bora hospitals in Kirinyaga claimed to have conducted 22 surgeries in a day, and yet it did not meet all the requirements for a level 4 hospital, prompting questions about the licensing process by the Medical Practitioners and Dentist Board. Murang'a High School dispensary recorded a significant increase in claims after it revised its fees from 500 shillings to 1,000 shillings, with a few school officials colluding with rogue NHIF employees to misappropriate funds from NHIF. The two institutions have, however, distanced themselves from the fraudulent activities. In a move to streamline the NHIF, the Ministry of Health also abolished the secondary school medical cover insurance dubbed Edu Afya after investigations revealed that under the cover, healthcare facilities enticed non-ill students by providing food incentives to obtain their biometrics, with nurses stationed in schools also collecting biometrics of students to lodge fictitious claims, thereby defrauding the fund. Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha has insisted that the Ministry of Health shall remain transparent as possible with zero tolerance to corruption. Theo Masharia, KUTV.
Now, the government, in collaboration with a section of non-governmental organization, has initiated a project to train nurses and community health promoters in an effort to enhance the capacity of healthcare professionals in the fight against non-communicable diseases. Yvonne Kemuma reports on a day that report indicates that non-communicable diseases are reported to account for 50% of hospital admissions.
The government, in collaboration with various non-governmental organizations, has launched a training program to strengthen the capacity of healthcare providers in combating non-communicable diseases. The program aims to provide training for nurses and healthcare professionals to reduce the prevalence of these diseases. According to Health CS Susan Nakumicha, currently the existence of non-communicable diseases not only impacts the health of citizens but also affects the country's ability to reach its economic agenda goals.
These are the people that we have planned should get into the societies, into the communities, into each and every household, so that we start screening early. We promote healthcare, they give education to the households, so that we are able to tackle this rising burden of NCDs from the bottom.
According to the agreement, nurses and community health promoters will receive training to empower them in educating the community about these diseases.
But these diseases are preventable to a very large scale. That if we only did the right thing, they are not supposed to be taking a chunk of our health budget as they do now.
It is estimated that non-communicable diseases contribute up to 55% of hospital deaths in Kenya, with the disease often being caused by poor diet and lifestyle factors, among others. And as this occurs, the National Assembly Health Committee intends to take away some responsibilities of the Medical Practitioners and Dentist Board, KMPDC, stating conflict of interests. Speaking during a fact-finding mission to a private hospital in Mwea, Patrick Munene, the committee vice chair, noted that currently some level 4 and 5 hospitals have not met all minimum requirements to be categorized as such.
We will commend as a committee that the registration of services and registration of professionals be left with the KMPDC, then registration and inspection of facilities be given to a different body so that we can avoid this conflict of interest.
Muneno also raised concerns about how private hospitals easily access funds from the National Hospital Insurance Fund compared to public hospitals. Yvonne Kimuma, KUTV.
Alright, that story by Yvonne Kimuma takes us to our first break here on KUTV Primetime News. Remember, when we come back after the break, we're having a big discussion tonight where we take stock of the current development in the education sector as far as 100% transition is concerned. And my guest tonight is Boaz Waruku, Strategy and Policy Advisor, Elimu Bora Working Group. That discussion will be coming to you in just a bit after the break.
Right here for your sake. Now, today we are going to talk about the beginning of a fall, but not just a fall. It is a fall never to recover. If you spend your time sleeping, na tumesema while you are drunk, your senses are sleeping. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. How are you doing today? I'm well in the Lord. I hope you are well in the Lord. First of all, I'd like to thank our Father in heaven. They say broken things can't be fixed, right? But that's a lie. Genesis chapter 3 verses 8. That evening they heard the Lord God walking in the garden, and they hid from him among the trees. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Catch me right here only on KUTV every single Sunday.
From the hospital corridors, we bring you experts to discuss issues affecting your health, from diet to mental health. The familiar and the ignored are both put into perspective. We then dive into the environment and look at the effects of climate change and its solutions. Join me, Mutegi K. Martin, every Friday at 9 p.m. as we learn on how to better our health while taking care of our environment. Only on KUTV. You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Auma Evans.
Right, welcome back and thank you for choosing to stay with us. Now, discussion rather begins right now, and of course you're taking toll of 100% transition from primary school to secondary education. Well, it is estimated that at least 1,394,000 students and 44 sat for Kenya's Certificate of Primary Education. Out of this, at least 1.2 million have already joined high school, with 131,854 are yet to join high school. And that is about 10% of 1.3 million candidates who sat for Kenya Certificate of Primary Education. Now the big question is, where are these, learners and why are they not in school? So those are some of the areas that we'll be tackling tonight. And let me take you through the transition now from various counties, the county that have registered the high number of transition as far as the 100% transition is concerned. And with the highest figures, Laikipia recorded 99%, same case with Nyeri County, then followed by Samburu, Nairobi, and Nakuru. Those are some of the counties that recorded at least the high number of transition. I'm talking about 99 to roughly 98, 97% of transition. That is a high number, and one that has really surprised many is the Samburu County. When we take a look at and flip the coin and take a look at the lowest transition, well, Kajiado, Kilifi, Narok, Baringa, and Isiolo recorded the lowest number of transition as far as transitioning from primary to high school, rather secondary school education is concerned. This is in line with the government objective of making sure that every learner transit from primary to secondary school. And that is the discussion we are having with my guest tonight, Boaz Waruku, Strategy and Policy Advisor, Elimu Bora Working Group, who is joining us virtually. Asante sana, Boaz, for making time to talk to KUTV.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Evans. I hope you can hear me.
Right, loud and clear. Well, Mr. Boaz, let's pause for a moment and reflect on education, and to be particular, the 100% transition. This is an area that, the government seemed to be hitting below the belt. Over the time, it has proven to be a tall order. And I want to borrow your mind on this. Why is it taking, so long for this, the dream to be actualized, so that every learner transit from primary school to secondary education as envisioned by the government? But why is it taking so long?
Thank you, Evans. The very first thing that I think we need to unpack is, what does 100% transition mean? Transition, rather.
All right.
It is an aspect that I think the administration, particularly in Kenya, has popularized to indicate that children who join school at whichever level that they continue in school until the last level, where they do what has commonly been referred to as the summative exams. At the KCP level, that's Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, or at the Form 4, where they do, or they sit for the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. But I will tell you that that is actually a very shallow way of looking at what Kenyans actually desire. Because what Kenyans desire is ensuring that education is, as a right, is actually free and compulsory for all the children in Kenya. What that means is that any child who is within the age bracket when they are supposed to be going to school, the basic education level, all those children should be in school. In other words, all should be enrolled. And so when all are enrolled, then it will make sense when we are talking about also 100% transition. Where we are starting from is a case where we have not been able to ensure that all children are at school. So there are quite a number of children, more than 2 million actually to be precise, at the basic education level, who are not anywhere in school. So coming to those who are in school, we are also saying that they should be continuing to learn. And the 100% transition pronouncement is actually a good call. Why? Because you take account of the number of our learners, our children, once they enter into school. And when they get into school, then you are able to trace and track every level until they are all in school. And even if they transit to tertiary level colleges and the universities, then you are also able to account for it. So as for now, because we're dealing with the transition that occurred for the class that sat the last KCP in the 844 system, that is the class of 2023. And that class, actually, you see you put a figure of 1.3. The figures we have read 1.4 million. And indeed, the government, by stating that 130,000 are still not accounted for in terms of transitioning into Form 1, that is also, it's the lower figure, but we can go by that because one student, one child out of school is a huge number. So 130,000, that is a huge, very, very huge number. And there are things which we should then be addressing because our government operates like they pretend not to be aware why some of these children are not in school. But they should be informed or reminded that these children are actually, majority of them are children who are not able to raise anything, even to buy a pair of shoes to go to school.
All right.
And a number of them, the actual fees that was being charged, and you are aware that as we speak now, all the school heads, they just agreed in unison that all the Form 1 intakes, you must clear at least the first term's fee.
All right.
That must be cleared. So that has made many of these children to be out of school.
All right.
Even those who tried to go and did not carry the entire amount were actually turned away. And the minister or the cabinet secretary should be informed about this. I think he knows. He's just being economical with the truth.
All right. When you talk about the head teachers actually unanimously agreeing that you will not, or rather no candidate will be admitted without at least clearing full school fees. Well, we have just run you here a story that President William Ruto, when he was there in Bungoma, issuing a stern warning to all head teachers to actually allow the students to report to school without being chased or sent away home. Well, now a broader picture now is about this 100% transition. So hypothetically speaking, let's say the government, in its effort to make sure that every learner transit from primary to secondary school education, well, if that is actually actualized, now the big question is, can the school really handle this kind of a number given the current circumstances?
Thank you. Your question is actually highly loaded, but I'll start from where you began by premising it on what the president said today somewhere in Goma. And if I got it right, I think, see, the president was talking about the SS. And for me, that is part of the problem, because we have so many statements, overstatements, and misplaced statements, which are clashing here and there, because it should be not left to the parents or the students or teachers or anybody to guess what the government means. Because what the government means should be true for the grade 1 learner to the Form 4 learner. So the president should have been more specific and more absolute that no child should be sent back for lack of fees at that basic education level if he wanted to address it at that level. And maybe also see how he addresses the quagmire and the chaos that we are witnessing at the higher education level, where students even stay for a whole semester without funds being transmitted to them from the higher education funds and even from help. But back to where you're saying, you started with on the president pronouncing himself. I'm saying president as the chief executive officer of the country, he should have been very direct and clear that let no child be sent home be it primary school, be it junior secondary school. In fact, he's talking of junior secondary school when his own presidential working party has been popularizing what they're calling a comprehensive school. So there's a lot of confusion. They need to make up their mind whether they are going by what has been recommended by their presidential working party or they are still stuck in the past. But even if whichever they want to call it, there should be no wishy-washy on what should be the direct instructions that at the basic education level, let no child be sent back home for lack of school fees. I think that should be clear. Then you're asking whether the capacity, you're dealing with capacity issues, whether the facilities we have should or are capable of catering for the numbers that did the KCP. And in this regard, I think you must be referring to the high schools, so the secondary schools, where we have the Form 1s who have joined. Indeed, this was a huge number, but it should not have been coming as a surprise to the government. Why? Because they have been keeping records of these students. They knew that come 2024, we were going to have a huge number. And indeed, even if they had not realized that, everybody else outside there was last KCP exams. So with that kind of an arrangement or an understanding, we should have been expecting that they had this. Look at what Professor Magoha did. Professor Magoha ran around to construct CBC classrooms. The question that should have been asked is, did he also give resources for the construction of additional classrooms? Because indeed, almost each and every public school has had an additional or an extra stream. So the schools which used to have 3 streams are now having 4 streams. Those that used to have 7 streams, some are even having as high as 11 streams, meaning that we have high numbers. So indeed, we are dealing with congestion in those schools. And from the reliable information we are gathering, there are some schools where even in the dining hall, students have to eat in shifts.
All right.
So there's a way in which at least aspects of coordination and preparation, which should have been done a little bit early, was not done. And
sorry to cut you short. You talk about the aspect of preparation, and this speaks volume of a recurring problem that keep on appearing every time. So because we are talking about this is a discussion that we had back then, we are having it right now, and the big question is, don't we learn?
Maybe your generation would help Kenya learn. The generation that we found in Kenya, the one that we have still been fighting just to ensure that they become a little bit serious with certain things, is a generation that does not understand. You keep on telling them the same thing in and out, and they'll still come back and find the problem. For example, on the financing, they are talking about we transmitted capitation grants to schools. The same administration should be telling you that what they transmitted was 31 billion, which was supposed to be now sent, and they were very specific that this is for term 1 of 2024. When you are being told that this is the money we are sending to you for term 1 2024, we hope that the money has reached schools, because as at the time when the schools had reopened, many schools had not received the money. But assuming that they have received term 1 transmission, the 2023 calendar year, the school calendar year, ended with 47% of the capitation not having been transmitted, meaning that those schools still have some pending bills. No wonder the head teachers are actually demanding that the Form 1s must clear the term 1 fees, because they are having pending bills. So some of these things are what I say, they keep recurring. and it's like we do not want to address them holistically. We are simply looking at shortcuts. So we must just be very serious with ourselves. And indeed, within the education sector, we should not be pronouncing ourselves and contradicting ourselves at the same time. We should be anchoring the implementation of our program on what the mother law of this land states. Indeed, it is not a request, it is not begging. The Constitution in Article 19 demands or commands of us that every policy decision that we make, every legislative, every program, activity or intervention that we make must comply with the Bill of Rights chapter, which is chapter 4. And within that is where I already talked about the Article 43, that is the right to education. Article 53, the right to free and compulsory education for every child at the basic education level.
Okay.
So if that is so clear, all we should be trying to do is to ensure that resources are mobilized so that the resources become available. We have a lot of discordant measures, discordant and half measures being deployed to address this. For example, the school fees. You're seeing that these bursaries which are being splashed all over, the government releases monies to individuals. These individuals who now control these resources like personal monies for their foundations, which they dish out to those people whose parents were loyalists to the political leaderships. And indeed you find that more than 6 of such categories of bursaries are being splintered. What makes us do such a crazy thing? And you know that for each bursary scheme, there's an administrative overhead which eats up a lot of that money. Why can't all this money be put together like what Limubora is advocating? That we put all this together in a national basic education fund, and we ensure that everybody goes to school without having to run around looking for MCA or MP or governor or whichever presidential schemes or whichever other schemes, looking for those bursaries. Why can't they be directed to the schools so that we only say, let our children go there and they'll start learning?
Okay. Well, when you talk about, the fund and of course the Bill of Rights that is enshrined in our constitution to make sure that every right is protected, including the right to education. Well, you even talked about the funding models that is being used, rather the funding that is being used, and what we are currently seeing in the social media. Nowadays, you see like, parents, pupils with cards, with tags, appealing for help for this, for just to make sure that the quest for education is actually realized. And you talked about the bursaries. Now we are asking this, and this begs the question: have we misplaced our priorities as far as this particular means of sourcing for funding is concerned, and who actually does the funding actually reach to who deserves this particular fund, or who this fund was meant for?
Thank you, Evans. You are actually giving answers instead of asking questions, and thanks for that. It is a case of misplaced priorities. You are right. You are asking me whether it is that case. It is so clear. It is a case of misplaced priority. And the funds are basically supposed to be for the children. I may bring it to your attention that as we speak, the government of Kenya is really proud that they have been able to deliver education for every child in Kenya. If you look at the report that they have been submitting to the UN bodies about their commitment to actualize the children's right to education, that is one thing which stands out. And you know that that is far from the true position. And so the very first thing that we must be doing is, let's at least be honest with ourselves. Because when we are honest with ourselves, then we'll be able to admit the mistakes that are there and address the challenges that really bog us down in the attempt to ensure that all the children are in school and are learning. Why I say so is because as we speak now, the number of children that we even lost during COVID. Remember, COVID came, the 2020, and when the students were resuming learning towards the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, not many children, particularly the girls, we lost many of the girls, and we have not been able to account for that up to date. So we should at least be very honest with ourselves and say we are trying, but we have challenges. We have challenges because instead of applying the resources to fund education, we are applying resources to take certain measures which you don't even know where they stand or come from. Like the number of high-level trips that we are witnessing, top-notch government officials are undertaking, where they gobble up lots of money. I think the controller of budget just the other day told us how much money was actually wasted by the various agencies, rise from the counties to the national government, on the travel alone. And at that point, you remember the figure of 67 billion Kenya shilling was touted as having been used there. Evans, that is the amount of money we are looking for just to ensure that all these children are in school and they are learning. Indeed, that 67 billion Kenya shillings, which was used, just misapplied, because when you are not able to tell which kind of travels were this and what benefit did they give to Kenya, then you must start asking that is an amount. The 67 billion Kenya shillings was an amount that could have taken all the 1.4 million KCP graduates to Form 1 without asking of their parents to pay a single coin. And indeed, even those at that time, because I think the calculations as a Limubora we are done, each of them would be getting 48,000.
All right.
You know, 48,000 is enough to take care of a student in a boarding facility for the whole year.
All right.
So those who are in the day schools, that could even be enough to take them for the whole 4-year cycle.
All right.
So I'm saying, as you pointed out, I think misplaced priorities, and indeed we should be directing the resources to education. When we do so, we'll be able to do so much. The amount that we have misapplied, even in the entertainments and making celebrations, which some do not make sense,
All right,
would have converted our teachers, the teachers who are now being called interns.
Okay.
You know, interns are students and trainees who are still undergoing training. But these are teachers who have been certified. These are teachers who went through, and indeed they were conferred with the degree.
All right.
They are given the power to read and do all that pertains to the degree, which was a degree in education.
Okay.
But now they are still being considered as interns.
All right.
The amount of money we are misapplying could have been used really to convert them from interns to permanent and pensionable teachers.
Well, you talked about, funding, and of course, the Ministry of Education actually received the lion's share of the national budget allocation, the 2023-2024 budget allocation, over 600 billion to be precise.
625 billion, yes.
All right.
625 billion.
That's a huge amount of money, and that many thought maybe could actually solve this problem. And when you see such problem keep on repeating itself.
Can I clarify something there first before you make the question?
Okay.
Allocation alone is not enough. It is allocation and spending. And when you spend it, you also have to spend it appropriately. I've just given you an example of what happened. Last year, the entire academic year, 47% of the capitation grant was never transmitted to schools. So it is part of the 625 billion that you see. So when it is seeing a package there as, oh, we have allocated so much, because you see, the UNESCO standards indicate that at least 20% of the national budget of a state should be allocated to education. And Kenya is among those that are moving closer to the 20%.
Right.
So, but it is not about allocating it. It should be allocate that. We are saying allocate the amount. Once you've allocated it, apply it. In other words, remit it to the parts which is required. When that money is remitted, ensure that there's accountability in the use of that. In other words, scrutiny.
Okay.
Scrutinize it to ensure that it is utilized well. Otherwise, we'll not be actually dealing with the thing. And there's a component which is also missing in most of the allocations.
Okay.
The component of how sensitive are we to the special needs within the education. All the needs within education, have we costed them effectively?
Okay, because
that is also missing.
sorry, but we are running out of time, and I think for now, like, would have really liked to continue with this particular discussion, but time is not on our side. So I'll give you 1 minute to actually make your closing remark, kindly.
Thank you, Evan. So actually, the closing remark issue, you are the one who started with it. You're saying that education should be made a priority.
All right.
That is without question. 2 is that the financing that we are doing in education, it is so scattered that it causes a lot of confusion. In fact, it's a conduit for corruption. We should consolidate that and education. 3, it is not proper for us to continue mistreating our teachers.
Okay.
Teachers who have been trained and qualified,
Thank
let
you.
us employ and deploy teachers in a professional manner. Let us convert the interns into full, permanent and pensionable terms.
All right. Thank you.
Let us provide infrastructure in all schools. When we talk of comprehensive schools, let us make that a reality.
Fair enough.
Let us not just say by word, but we do not follow the action.
All right.
Otherwise, thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Boaz Waruku, Strategy and Policy Advisor, Elimu Bora Working Group. And of course, this is very important discussion regarding the 100% transition. Asante sana for your time.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
All right, now moving on, religious organizations have been accused of remaining silent as drug menace threatens to take over the youth in the country. This is a claim made by Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, who was speaking in a meeting with the members of clergy in Karuri in Kiambaa sub-county, where the county government was also faulted for issuing licenses to bar owners to operate in areas of residence.
Spouse of the Deputy President, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, has accused the religious organizations in the church of keeping quiet while young men are destroyed by alcoholism, drugs and substance abuse. According to Pastor Dorcas, many religious leaders know the people involved in the sale and distribution of drugs and substances in their areas but never speak out against them.
Kama kitu ni kiovu ni sin is sin, and you must call it sin. You cannot keep quiet. People are selling poisons. The church knows. Even my brothers, you also know. People are selling bangi, and they are killing our children.
Pastor Dorcas also called on those calling street families as chokora to be referring to them as her children. She urged Kenyans to change their language, mindset and be more kind to help save the children. This was with regard to her plan of launching a medical camp targeting the street families at the Karuri grounds in Kiambaa.
Wale watoto wote wako huko kwa gata mnayoita chokora, nilisema mubadilishe hiyo majina, muwaite watoto wa Pastor Dorcas. We must change our mindset and our language. When you speak and address my children, don't call them drug addicts. Call them our children, our good children. And your words, maneno yenu, itaanza kubadilisha watoto wetu na maisha yao na destiny zao.
Kiambaa Deputy County Commissioner Geoffrey Tarragon, on his part, accused the county government of issuing 24 hours working licenses to bar owners and restaurants having liquor stores to operate in areas of residences. This, according to him, makes it difficult for police officers to make arrests.
There are clubs that they are just actually wine and spirit, but they have been given 24-hour license for bar and restaurant. So our officers feel frustrated. Because when you arrest somebody who has a bar and a restaurant, they will just be released by the courts. These are our children. Let's not actually destroy our children by bringing bars to the estates, to the villages.
Pastor Rigathi has been championing for protection of the youths in the country against drugs and substance abuse, and also made efforts to support the boy child who she claims have been neglected for the longest time. Anyango Sylvia, KUTV.
Now, the Road Safety Association of Kenya, led by its chairman David Kiare, has blamed the constant road accidents for the lack of inspection of public service vehicles as well as trucks. At the same time, Kiare opposed a proposal to have PSV's owners have their vehicles fitted with the speed cameras, saying that this should be the responsibility of the government and not operators who are already overburdened with various levies. This story was produced by our very own Gracious Aganda.
The Road Safety Association of Kenya has blamed the increase of road carnage to the lack of inspection on public service vehicles. Speaking with journalists at the association meeting in Ruiru, Kiambu County, the chairman of the association, David Kiare, said most vehicles do not have inspection stickers which prove that they have been inspected.
Inspection sticker ilikuwa inasaidia polisi akiwa barabarani anajua hii gari ijaenda inspection ama imeenda inspection. Waliondoa. Sasa hakuna inspection sticker. Polisi barabarani kazi yao ni kuangalia insurance. Insurance ni private companies. Lakini ile muhimu polisi wanastahili kuwa anaangalia kama gari zetu zinastahili kuwa barabarani. Hawawezi angalia.
Chairman Kiare insisted that it is important to have the vehicles inspected as a way of reducing accidents, noting that out of 1.5 vehicles, only 300,000 have been inspected. Kiare claims that some government officials are receiving bribes so as not to inspect the vehicles.
Na yale magari yanastahili kwenda inspection ni gari 1.5 ambazo zote zinastahili kupelekwa inspection. Na wakati tumefanya utafiti wetu, zile gari ambazo zimepelekwa inspection ziko chini ya magari 1,300. Magari 1,200,000 hazijaenda inspection.
According to a report by the National Transport and Safety Authority, approximately 3,900 people died in the year 2023 due to road accidents. David Kiare pointed out that approximately 200 people died between December 2023 and January 2024 due to road accidents. Last week, 11 people lost their lives after the bus they were in collided head-on with a lorry that was transporting rice in Kisumu County. Lorries and buses are said to contribute heavily to road accidents, as many vehicles have brake failures and mechanical problems which go uninspected.
Right, let's take our second break here on KUTV Primetime News. When I come back, it's all about sport news.
Right here for your sake. Now, today we are going to talk about the beginning of a fall, but not just a fall. It is a fall never to recover. If you spend your time sleeping, na tumesema while you are drunk, your senses are sleeping.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe. How are you doing today? I'm well in the Lord. I hope you are well in the Lord. 1
first of all, I'd like to thank our Father in heaven. They say broken things can't be fixed, right? But that's a lie. Genesis chapter 3 verses 8. That evening they heard the Lord God walking in the garden, and they hid from him among the trees. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Catch me right here only on KUTV every single Sunday.
So my name is Jakub Petri. I'm Associate Professor in the Institute of Philosophy of Jagiellonian University in Krakow, Poland. And I'm the main coordinator of the Cafe project, which is being here hosted by Kenyatta University.
My name is Ewa Hudoba. I am a project manager in this consortium. Keep watching cutting edge research at Kenyatta University Television.
Right, let's get sporty. The Football Kenya Federation Premier League side Kenya Police has explained the decision behind the hiked gate charges for their clash against Gor Mahia, scheduled to kick off on 3rd of February 2024 at the Kenya Police Stima Sacco Stadium at 3 p.m. The gate charges went up sevenfold, with terraces area going for 1,500, 2,000 for VIPs and 3,000 for the VVIP stand. Police FC revealed that the Football Kenya Federation reduced the number of fans only to 500, hence their decision to hike the charges. And Liverpool thrashed Chelsea 4-1 in the English Premier League at Anfield to extend their lead at the summit of the English football, or rather the English Premier League table. Diego Jota opened the score sheet for the host in the 23rd minute before Conor Bradley added the second goal 16 minutes later to hand Liverpool a decisive early lead before the breather. Dominic Soboslai and Luis Diaz scored the third and the fourth goal after the break, with Christopher Nkunku scoring Chelsea's consolation goal. Right, we're done. So time to head home. Many thanks for all those who made this production a success, to the men and women behind the scene. My name is Auma Evans. Samukelo has been our sign language interpreter tonight. Good night and God bless.